Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me today in this live podcast on why and how to monitor your health at home, dedicated to my mother, who who inspired me to do the subject because this is what I told her. Now, of course, my mother's 89, and the older you get, the more serious you should be about monitoring your health. But everybody can should be monitoring their health. Um, and we're going to talk about simple ways you can monitor your health at home. I just see too many of my patients just waiting until they show up at the doctor's office and then discovering, they have kidney failure, high blood pressure, or diabetes. When there's, of course, we can measure these on a regular basis and have an idea what's going on. And even myself, I've measured my blood pressure often, and I have the little cuff. I leave it right on the desk. You can see it's a real old one. Somebody said I should get a new one. They said, "That's really old." I go, "Yeah, I've had it a long time." But I just leave it on my desk, and sometimes I'm just watching video or something, and I put it on. But I find it interesting when it goes up. So you learn by monitoring your own blood pressure and your blood sugar. You can understand what's happening. So, of course, I like to joke around. My ex-wife called me, and that usually shoots up my blood pressure. So while I was talking to her, I wanted to measure my blood pressure, and sure enough, it was 25 points higher. And then after I hung up, it came right down. But you can see that certain things in life can affect you. And of course, many people, they go to the doctor's office and they get high blood pressure. And the first thing I tell them to do is just measure it at home, because maybe you were late for the appointment and that stressed you out. And there is what's called white coat syndrome, which is you see the white coat and you stress out, your blood pressure goes up. Everybody's aware of this. So you should really measure your blood pressure at home. And it can be a difference between the day and the evening, whether you've eaten, whether you've not eaten, whether you've rested all day, or whether you've worked all day, or, whether something stressed you out or not. So you'll see there's a lot of factors. And some people's blood pressure, the Vata type of person who's more sensitive, and their blood pressure is actually increasing by their own stress or anxiety, and the cortisol levels can jack it up. And of course, even cups of coffee can jack up your blood pressure. And people say, "Well, I don't know about that. I never heard that before." And then when they start measuring their blood pressure, then they realize, "Oh, wow, I had a couple of cups of coffee and my blood pressure went up, my pulse went up." So it kind of gives you that feedback loop to be measuring your blood pressure every once in a while. And then what's putting it up. And if your blood pressure is high, you can do things like lie down, relax, have some heart herbs, some heart tea, maybe get on my website, Herb Man Teas, and then go order some heart herbs and lower your blood pressure naturally. Uh, you know, and even your pulse, you should see your pulse too. I was just talking to a cardiologist today, and I was talking to him about high pulse rates. How harmful is it to have, a high pulse rate, like, 100, 90, 85? He says, oh, it should be 60, 70. Get the pulse down, particularly if a person's having heart palpitations and things. So, it's just a question I had about pulse, because sometimes when I treat people, the blood pressure comes down, but the pulse doesn't come down. And then they're getting these fluttering in the heart and things like that. So, even the pulse you want to get down, and that's the beauty of these machines. You get the systolic number, the diastolic number, and the pulse. And so even the pulse is valuable, and it will give you a feedback loop. Say you drink a couple cups of coffee, and your ex calls you, and you notice, wow, pulse is higher, blood pressure is higher, everything is higher. So want to block that call then for your own health sake. And then same with blood sugar. These kits are real inexpensive. This is actually my old kit, and I like it because it comes in a set. And people ask me which one's the best, and they're all pretty cheap on Amazon. They used to be expensive. This one was probably like $50, $60, but it just came with a nice case. And now I got a new one, just $38, but no case. So, but the new one works better than the old one. And blood sugar too, you should measure it on a regular basis. I mean, this, high blood pressure and high blood sugar, they're like the silent killers along with kidney failure, but we'll get there. But blood, in a sense, it's slower killer. And you can get, once your blood sugar goes up, you can have wounds not healing. Uh, 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 you can have all types of issues. It can damage your nerves, which three things that damages the blood sugar: your nerves, neuropathy, and your kidneys and kidney failure, and then your eyes. These are the three that the high blood sugar really damages. So, and of course, you'll become susceptible to infections more, and you won't have wounds won't heal as well. And of course, it can keep progressing and you don't even know it. And you're the one having the cookies, the candy, the ice cream every day. And you don't even realize how high your blood sugar is. Just again, I was been in this habit of just measuring my blood sugar, thinking I have perfect blood sugar because every time I go to my doctor in India, they test my blood sugar like he's a medical doctor, and I always have good numbers. But, I'm going in fasting, and I always have low numbers, even in the 80s. So I always thought, oh, I never have high blood sugar. And then this last year in the summertime, I was just in my bathroom measuring my blood sugar. And of course, you should go online to watch how to do it. Same with blood pressure. There's a lot of little tricks on where to put the cuff. And you should always do two or three times and get used to doing it till you start getting steady numbers. And some people, their machine isn't good, so they're getting bad numbers. Um, you could go online to learn how to do it. I'm not going to go there today. I'm just going to focus more on why you should be checking it, sharing with you some of my own experience. So in the summer, I got the new blood sugar kit. That's what motivated me because I tried to get my old one going and the battery was dead and I didn't have a little test strip. So I decided to just order a whole new one instead of buying test strips because test strips are usually for each different company. And I got it, and I leave that one in the bathroom. I leave the blood pressure cuff here right on my desk, so I can just do it. Put my arm on the desk. The arm should be at heart level. It should be relaxed, and there's many little tricks to doing it. But it really just takes experience and watch a few YouTube videos. So I was in the bathroom and I picked my finger with this new meter and got a number like 150s for my blood sugar. I go, what? And I couldn't think of what it was. And then the next day, I was kind of thinking a little bit more because I don't have any sugar, any candy, any cookies, any ice cream, not soda pop, because I'm that crazy health nut, of course, my whole life. So I've never eat this stuff, and I've always been proud of my great blood sugar, never spiking, at least that I was aware of. Um, and I and then I got these numbers in the 50s. So then the next day, I was drinking this coconut water. It was, it's only got 15 grams of sugar in it. It's a big old bottle, but then that says 15 grams for like 6 servings, and I'm drinking the whole bottle, that whole jug. I'm just gulping it down. Sometimes I was even doing more than one. So then I realized it's actually 15 times 6, how many grams of sugar. And so I said, oh man, I better stop that. It's the only thing I could think of was these coconut water drinks that I was gulping down in the day to stay hydrated, and it was working great. I mean, it felt good. I was putting them in the fridge. I was drinking them cold. I'm outside sweating in southern Texas, drinking my coconut water like my neighbors are drinking beer. And I never had alcohol. And alcohol also mess with your blood sugar, by the way. But so then I decided to stop that. And then I kept measuring my blood sugar and I was still getting numbers 130, 140. It really took a little while to come down. So I still learned. And of course, that's because it's not just the blood sugar, it's insulin resistance. So I was starting to develop some insulin resistance. And that's why it took a little while to even respond. But I mean, it was a wake up call for me because I was chugging down those things for months and it took a couple weeks to get it down. And then once I got down to lower numbers again, then I just had like a glass of this coconut water and diluted it down. And then I was checking, each day to see if that would jack up my blood sugar. And it didn't, because I'm exercising, I'm outside, so I'm sweating. So I think um, some of that cane sugar is not a problem. But when you're drinking the whole bottle, has like 90 grams of sugar. I mean, soda pop is like 45. So even though it's cane sugar, it's not high fructose corn syrup, which is even worse. Um, Still, my cane, no, there's no cane sugar in it. I'm sorry. It's just the coconut water. It just has low sugar, natural sugar content. So I thought I was pretty safe, but apparently I was drinking too much. So, that's another way that if you start measuring your blood sugar, you want to catch these conditions early. And you really want to measure a few times throughout the day. I mean, obviously, for blood sugar, you want to do fasting in the morning, but really, it's more important about 2 hours after you eat. I mean, most people, if you don't have any food all night and all morning, your blood sugar is gonna be at its lowest level, which is good. And so if you're high in the morning, it's a problem, and that, of course, is why they wanna measure it in the morning, because that's your where your blood sugar's at without any food. And I was surprised mine didn't even come down right away when I stopped it, which is what happens to my patients too. Just because you stop the ice cream, the cookies, and the candy doesn't mean your blood sugar is going to go right back to normal, because you have insulin resistance, and the pancreas is having trouble, and it's straining the pancreas, so it's not working as well to make the insulin. You're having more resistance to the insulin. So even you stop all these bad habits, even me stopping the coconut water, it didn't come down. It took a couple weeks to come down. And now if I could have resorted to taking some herbs, but I just couldn't fathom that I would need it, since I don't have anything sweet besides blueberries and raspberries and fruit. But sure enough, after a couple weeks, it did come down. I didn't have to take my own herbs. So, thank God I was measuring my blood sugar. I would think even the year before, that maybe I had high blood sugar because I was doing the coconut water the year before. And maybe I had high blood sugar back then and I didn't know it. Now, there's other indications. I live on my property in a little ranch, so I do urinate outside a lot, and I know where the ant hills are. So I always like to urinate on the ants, because that's what they used to do in the old days. They poured a urine on the ants and see if the ants would eat it. So I was kind of testing my blood sugar, and I have to admit, when I'd urinate in the morning, sometimes I just put my finger through the urine, so it was a little urine on my finger, and I would taste it, because if it's sweet, you got high blood sugar. So that was my, crude way of keeping an eye on my blood sugar, was tasting it every once in a while, peeing on ants and seeing if they went for it. And the ants all ran. They didn't go and start eating the sugar. So I kind of thought I was safe, but, I guess I wasn't doing that enough. And, yeah, you shouldn't be concerned about tasting your urine. I mean, it's, there's many Ayurvedic herbs that are prepared in cow urine, and there's many things that urine is beneficial for. But of course, you only want to have the urine from a person or a creature, an animal that's a vegetarian. Just like we could never take manure from a carnivore like the cat or the dog and use it on our garden. It would just be a disaster. It's toxic. Well, we always have to take it from the chicken or the horse or the goat. We want to always take that's why they, in Ayurveda, they take it from the cow. He's just eating grass. So his urine isn't toxic like the meat eaters. Nothing personal there for your meat eaters. But okay, so those are two things that you should definitely do. You should go buy your cuff, measure your blood pressure every once in a while. You should measure your blood sugar every once in a while, and keep an eye on it. You don't wait until you go to the doctors. And of course, a lot of people now aren't even going to the doctors anymore, maybe because they're concerned about, or had a bad experience or something like that. So they're going less. And that's even more critical, that you measure your blood sugar and your blood pressure on your own on a regular basis. And then you can be more motivated to take some herbs, or more motivated to change your diet, particularly for blood sugar. They call it like a silent killer. And the main cause of amputation, of course, in the country is high blood sugar. So other things you should monitor, and I learned this from speaking to my patients, that they often don't know these simple things. You should be looking at your bowel movements. And of course, you should be trying to have more than one a day. I had another cancer client recently who was only having one bowel movement a day and had the history of, they thought that was normal. And they even had history of polyps, which, is a precursor to colon cancer, which is why the doctor likes to do a biopsy on them. So you're already getting polyps, then you get the tumor, then you get the cancer. And another reason you want to keep the bowels moving, and another reason you don't want to have too much animal protein due to the waste of it is so toxic, and it's got no fiber, and this can, people who are vegetarian eating a lot of legumes and whole wheat grains, they're not going to have the constipation, and they're not going to have the colon cancer, and they're not going to have the putreated animal protein feces in there. So it's another pro for having your vegetables and your grains and your fiber. It's more than just the grains. But so you should be keeping an eye on. You can tell a lot from your bowel movements. If they're too light in color, like they're light tan or light brown, that can mean low bile. Obviously, if you see blood in them, that's kind of either a hemorrhoid, or it could even be colon cancer. It could be ulcerative colitis. So, probably want to go get that checked if you see blood in your stool, unless you're 100% sure you have a hemorrhoid or maybe a fistula, both of which are treatable. And other things, like if it's sinking to the bottom, that's not good. That means there's undigested food. If it's really black, that's also considered toxic. A lot of heavy meat eaters will have black, sticky, dark stool. So that's not a good sign. And if you have too much oil in the diet, and you're not able to digest it because maybe your liver's not working too good, a little clogged up from your drinking days, or a little fatty or whatever, then the stool can actually float, and you can see oil in the water. That's your body's not breaking down the fat and absorbing it, but not breaking it down into fatty acids, usually because of low bile or congestion in the gallbladder. You're not producing enough bile. Pretty common. And then at least, but you can see the indicators from the stool. You can see when you fill out my questionnaire, I ask you not just how many times you're having, but what color is it, So you don't need to, you could go study this subject. You could go to online and type, diagnosing my bowel movements, and you could go learn about your tongue and all these things. But at least you should be keeping an eye on it, that it doesn't get too hard and dry, doesn't become too black and sink into the bottom. And you just want those nice brown fluffy bowel movements. Even if it's stinking bad, that's not a good sign. I mean, it's amazing how the human body works, just like the animals. The more we stink, the more toxic we are. So where you stink tells you where you're toxic. So if somebody comes in the bathroom after you and says, "Oh my God, what died in here?" Ugh, that's not a good sign. Means, you got toxic putrefaction going on inside of your colon, and time for a colon cleanse, and to lighten up on the animal protein and get a little more fiber in there and clean that colon out. So even just the smell is an indicator, just like underarm smell is an indicator. Bad breath is an indicator. Any stinky smell is not considered good. And I guess they say that stinky smell repels the opposite sex, because that shows you're not healthy. So you stink, and this lets the opposite sex know, oh, he's not going to be healthy, or she's not going to be healthy for reproducing. And that stink, hopefully turns you off. So don't get involved with stinky people, because they're toxic, and maybe in more ways than just physically. We don't know, but stink is something. And then urine too. If the urine's all white, clear, you could be drinking too much water. And there is a name for this. I forget the name, but it's when a person drinks so much water, they deplete themselves of sodium. In fact, when I look at lab work, if I see sodium levels are really low, I ask the person, how much water do you drink? Because if you drink a lot of water, your sodium can come down even if you're having salt. And if you're not drinking much water, I mean, sodium can come up if you're not having foods with potassium or you're not urinating much. There's always variations. But uh, definitely you want to get it right. If it's too dark, like dark yellow, and of course, if it's got like an oranges color, like it's got some blood in it, again, that's very serious. But it should be light yellow, not dark. Could be not having enough water. That fluorescent orange, of course, usually is your B vitamins, creating that. So it's a little bit more of a fluorescent color, but you don't want too dark and you won't want to just clear white. You want just light yellow. And, you don't want to be running to the toilet. You don't want to be urinating at night. This is not a healthy thing. You could also keep track on how long you sleep. Keep track of if you get up at night, how long you sleep. But these are the basics, And of course, if you urinate in the tub, I mean the toilet, and you see a lot of bubbles, like somebody poured beer in the toilet. If you pour beer in, you can see the bubbles; they stay there. So if you got a lot of bubbles, this can be excess protein. This can be an early indicator of kidney failure, and you should be checking that out uh, by getting your blood tested. So uh, that's why you should do these basic monitoring: blood sugar, blood pressure, urination, stool. Let's just leave it at that. Okay. These are the basics you could be doing. If you want somebody to completely diagnose you, look at your eyes, look at your skin, look at your tongue, look at your fingernails, then you go to an Ayurvedic doctor because that's how we're trained, because it's an ancient system. They didn't have lab work in the past, so they were trained how to diagnose through observation, touching, and questioning. And it's a very advanced diagnostic system. In fact, it's probably one of the greatest strengths of Ayurveda is its advanced diagnostic capabilities. So in India, they say, at the amateur needs the blood work. So the really good doctor, Ayurvedic doctor, he can figure almost everything out without the blood work. Even blood sugar. I remember I had a teacher in India, and he shook the hand of a man coming in the office, and then he smelled his own hand, and he said, "Oh, this guy's blood sugar's high." Now, I didn't realize he was smelling his own hand, but he could feel the stickiness on the hand when he shook the guy's hand. He could feel it's like a little sticky, and then you can smell, tastes a little sweet. The sweat becomes sweet. So if you're sweating and you taste it and it's sweet, blood sugar, high blood sugar, urinate, sweet. So, and then of course some people can get this like kind of brownish line around the neckline. So, I know Ayurveda doctors, including my teacher in India, he could tell if somebody had high blood sugar just when before they even got to his desk. They were just coming in the door, and the time from they walked from the door to the desk, he would tell me high blood sugar, high blood pressure, just through observation. And of course, with blood pressure, your ears can come red, your face can come red, you can have bloodshot eyes, you can have veins sticking out here. And of course, Ayurvedic doctors, we can just feel the pulse and we just know immediately what it is. And, I used to do when I had my clinics, of course, I felt everybody's pulse. Now I'm online. I don't get to feel their pulse. So that's one reason I want people to go measure their own blood pressure all the time, because they need to tell me, particularly if they're trying to get off their medication and taking my herbs, they need to be taking their blood pressure regularly and logging it down and seeing the pattern. But, my teacher, he could tell if somebody had high blood pressure just from the moment they walked in the door. Or he'd just look at their eyes, look at their face, and then he'd say, "Well, I think it's about 150." And then, then he'd feel it with his hands. And then, we can tell just by feeling it what it is. Like I said, when I had my clinics, I used to feel people's blood pressure. And then I would kind of guess it, like, I think you're in the high 30s. And then I'd put the cuff on them and measure it, or ask them after that, what's been your blood pressure? You get very accurate after a while if you just keep measuring your own blood pressure and look at your cuff. That will help. to help you to understand it. You can even feel the blood pressure up here. I feel the blood pressure even on animals. Usually we use different place where we can feel it. And sometimes you can see a little throbbing right here. It's another indicator. But these are all advanced, but you should always be observing your body all the time. Sores, itchy, red, burning while you're urinating, even tooth infection. I mean, anything going on, you should take it seriously and take note at least and try to treat it without having to go running into ER all the time, as an emergency. And more sooner you treat things, the better. Unfortunately, most of my patients, they come to me, after they've had a problem for decades and it's more advanced. And sometimes people, they don't go to the doctor for months, years. And then when they do go, they find out their blood pressure is very high. And, it's called the silent killer. It's very, very important to have a better idea of your health. And of course, if you're going to be my patient or you are my patient, I can see many names I recognize here, then you should be measuring your blood pressure and your blood sugar before you do the appointment with me and give me this information, at the time of the appointment. And if these numbers are high and you're like, oh my God, I didn't know my blood pressure was so high, you should do an appointment and just not, wait 3 months until you get your doctor's appointment. And try to start on it right away. Obviously, the sooner you treat a condition, the easier it is to reverse it. Okay, so I hope I motivated you to monitor your own health better. Maybe keep a little log, write down your blood pressure, your blood sugar in a little book, and just keep a little log of it. And you may see patterns. You may see when you do certain things or certain days or certain things happen in your life. You may see the blood pressure go up. Maybe when you go out to eat with your friends, you go out and party with your friends and have alcohol, you come home, you measure it. Oh my God, my blood sugar's through the roof. And all you did was have a couple beers. Maybe that's something to motivate you to make a change. Many people don't know what's increasing their blood sugar. And of course, now they have the patch. You can just put the patch on and you can see your blood sugar right in your app. And this is really good because as you're eating, you can watch it right on your own phone. And then people, they tell me, oh, I ate this, it went up. I ate this, it went up. You don't have to research. You don't have to study. Nobody has to tell you. You can see it right on your own phone. People were afraid to have grains. And I said, no, just put a little ghee with it, put some butter with the grains. And they go, hey, that worked. I put like a tablespoon of ghee with my oatmeal and it didn't spike. That's right. You add the fat. You add the fat to stabilize the grains. You don't need to eliminate the grains. You just got to have the fat in there to keep the blood sugar stable. And some people were just having oatmeal with no fat or no ghee because they were scared of fat. And then they could see that their blood sugar spiked. But when they added a couple teaspoons of ghee to it, it didn't spike. So, this is the best way, the patch, and you can see it live on the app. But I think the doctor has to give you these. But that's really helped people get through high diabetes and recover. It really helps a lot because it's just educating you every day. You go out and drink one beer and you see your blood sugar go through the roof. You kind of don't snack all day and you see it come down. It just educates you really fast. And in the past, somebody'd have to educate you on all this stuff and you'd have to believe it. But now you can see it for yourself, what's, shooting up your blood pressure and how long it takes to come down after it's high. So I hope that motivated you to monitor your own health. And it's your responsibility. I mean, you could love your kids and love your husband or love your wife, but at the end of the day, or I should say many people could love you, but at the end of the day, we all have to take care of our own health as adults, and monitoring it is really one of the first steps, just knowing what's going on. Even your appetite, are you hungry in the morning? When is your bowel movement? Do you wait till the night to have a bowel movement or it's in the morning? You may not know what that means, but you should at least be aware of it and what's happening. If your digestion is weak and you're not hungry, no appetite is not considered a healthy sign. Many of my patients, their appetite starts getting much stronger, but they don't gain the weight. That's the metabolism. So even if you're tired, you shouldn't just drink coffee. You should think, well, what's happening here? Why am I so tired? What have I done to make myself fatigued at this age. And of course, if you do appointment with me, I'll answer all these questions for you. And that may be the easiest way, but you need to at least be aware of it and not in denial or ignoring your own health signs and symptoms that you may get in your daily life that may indicate that you have a health issue. All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you all the best of health and happiness.